I'm Alec Baldwin, and you're listening to Marketing Trends, and the leads aren't weak.
We just wanted to be different from the very beginning, and we wanted to let the best marketers in the world, kind of like no matter what they were doing, come onto the show and be able to share best practices and needle into the things that they were talking about with their friends, that they were talking about with their peers, that is not always surfaced. And to get some of those insecurities, to get some of those feelings, to get some of those best practices was really important for us.
The Tonight Show debuted in 1954 with comedian Steve Allen welcoming a local television audience to his version of what he thought The Tonight Show should be. Since then, 6 different hosts have manned the desk for the late-night comedy show. Jay Leno was known for his charm and hair. Johnny Carson established the standard format for television chat shows, including the famous guest couch. And Jimmy Fallon is known for his exuberance, musical moments, and skits. Everyone brings something unique to the table, and when they do, a new era begins. You see, in the entertainment industry, the only standard is change. And while hosts come and go, they all leave their mark and set a standard for the next person, while the brand marches on. On this special episode of Marketing Trends, Ian Faison, who has held the mantle as host of this show since its inception, passes the baton to incoming host Jeremy Bergeron. First, you'll hear from Ian as he reminisces on some of the origin stories of the show, some of the behind-the-scenes folks who helped get the podcast off the ground, and what it's been like to be part of this program as it's grown from an idea in a Google Doc to more than 300 episodes and 1 million downloads and counting. Then later, we'll introduce you to Jeremy, who will share a bit about himself, his background, and why he's so excited to take the reins and put his unique spin on this show. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Marketing Trends. I'm Ian Faison, host of Marketing Trends for the last time. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about a little bit of history of the show. I am no longer going to be host of Marketing Trends, and Jeremy's taken over. So we're going to talk through some of that and get into everything in between. So kind of to get started here, I wanted to talk about the just kind of origins of this show and when we started this over 3 years ago and what we were thinking. So back then, much different days, much different times. And I remember meeting the good people at Salesforce, Nate Skinner, Emily Foltz, Maureen Maggioni, I think I said your name right, Kevin Baldacci, and all those crew. And I remember sitting down with Nate and Emily, talking with her on the patio of my old place about this idea for this show called Marketing Trends, where we wanted to do a twice a week show where we talk to, the smartest folks in marketing. So everything from CMOs at big companies, talk to a lot of, vendors and different sorts of people. And we kind of started kicking around this idea. And Salesforce was awesome. So shout out to them from the very beginning. It's kudos to them that, over 300 episodes and 1 million downloads later that they're still here and being awesome. Although a lot of the names have changed out and everything, it's cool to see that. So back then, we were working primarily with the Pardot team, and we wanted the show to have a B2B lens, which was a little different. I mean, there were other B2B shows out there for sure, but we wanted to always make sure that we brought B2B into the conversation, that we were kind of cross-polling ideas from B2B to B2C. And it was something that, we were very focused and committed to. So we said, hey, let's do the first season of the show. Let's do, I think it's 24 episodes, and we'll see how we go. And, over 300 episodes later, over 1 million listeners later, still rolling. We have done in-person recordings at a number of places, the old studio in Palo Alto, a ton of different offices in the Bay Area, offices in Austin, Texas. We've done multiple events. We did a session at Dreamforce Live. We did a day of recording at Serious Decisions, or multiple days of recording. We recorded at the Salesforce SKO, did an episode, really fun episode with Tracy Eiler back in the day. And it's been crazy. It's been a wild ride. I can't believe it's been 3 years since we started working on the show back in August, 3 years ago. And I think we officially launched just a couple months after that. And it's been a wild ride. I think that we've had an awesome team here supporting me for that whole time. So shout out to our producer one, Big Ben Wilson, has a very tall figure, but a short personality. Somewhere Hillary's laughing because everyone, our good buddy Ben, was the first producer on this show, and everyone's like, "Huh, you're a lot taller than I thought," and it was a running joke. But and of course, I work with him now and love Ben. But he was so instrumental in the early days of helping me figure out what were the type of things that we were doing. I remember one of the early pieces that we did, I still think one of the best pieces that we did was we did a deep dive with back then my co-host Lauren Vaccarello, who was instrumental in getting the show off the ground and being my co-host for those early days. A deep dive into like Apple's ads that was written by Chad back in the day, and was just a really cool type of an episode. And Ben was really helpful to get a lot of that stuff off the ground and to really help write an absolutely ace newsletter. The newsletter has changed over the years because we've had so much more content, so many more guests, but there was a lot more stuff that we were trying to kind of figure out in those early days and figure out what is the right format and length and all of that. And so shout out to Ben. And then Hillary has been the producer, lead producer for this show for a long time since then. And she's absolutely phenomenal. Our listeners have no idea the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes on the show. And she's just absolutely class and the best in the business. And now Aaron also has been producing the show for a while. And it's just great to see them and the team crank out all this stuff. We've also had an ace audio team over the years, tons of different audio engineers working on this show, working on, our last second ideas. Oh, let's do a mashup of this episode. Let's do a supercut here. Let's do all that stuff. In addition to just taking out my ums and ahs. I do consistently get feedback for saying like too much. So I apologize to all the listeners, but I promise that there were a lot more of those that were taken out. So shout out to Matt, to Jonah, to Adam, and all of the audio engineers that help support the show. And of course, shout out to Lauren Vaccarello, who, again, we wouldn't have been able to create the show that we did from the very beginning without her support and being a great co-host and being a muse to fire off ideas with and to think of things like a CMO and sharing lots of her stories and personal anecdotes from conversations, private conversations with other CMOs, and sharing some of those vulnerabilities. In the early days, I really think that separated our show because we had a lot of that stuff, and we could see a lot of those really cool guests that she was friends with that had a lot of experience in early days at Salesforce and all that stuff. And then, of course, big shout out to our guy Alec Baldwin for reading our intro. So we were recording for a different podcast. We were recording with him. We did this really cool series called The Story, and Alec was going to be the narrator for our season that we're going to do about military veterans. Basically, we approached him. We're like, hey, we want to do these untold stories of military veteran leaders and entrepreneurs and business folks. Would you be interested? And Alec's team was like, basically like, this is awesome. We never get really approached for this sort of stuff, but his dad was actually a vet, so it was cool. And he was super fired up. So anyways, we ended up going to record in a studio in New York, and he was awesome to work with. He knocked out all of his stuff super fast, and we slid over a bunch of promos that we were going to do for that show. And we had kind of just said like, hey, if you could read some of these extra promos, that would be really awesome. And we had just thought that it's just such a great line, and Glenn Ross, and kind of always just fires me up to think about as someone who is in sales turned into marketing. I just love that image of the salesperson saying the leads aren't weak. to his sales team and kind of backing up marketing. But then you know that on the other end of that conversation, it always ends up being something that's like, hey, you need to have better leads. So it just kind of seemed like it made sense. So shout out to Ali for reading our promos and helping us out and giving me a nice French pronunciation of my name, which was pretty funny. And it kind of speaks to, I think, kind of some of the DNA of this show where we just wanted to be different from the very beginning. And we wanted to let the best marketers in the world, kind of like no matter what they were doing, come onto the show and be able to share best practices and needle into the things that they were talking about with their friends, that they were talking about with their peers, that is not always surfaced. And to get some of those insecurities, to get some of those feelings, to get some of those best practices was really important for us. And we just wanted to make a show that helped marketers get better at their job. You know, I get feedback all the time. I got feedback this week of someone who was like, I listen to every episode. So I think we achieved that over the past, 300 plus episodes of being able to do those things. And I think that, it wouldn't have been possible without the amazing quality of guests that we've had. We've had some of the best CMOs in the world, and we cater to the senior leader in a lot of CMOs, but we've had folks from all different kind of levels of marketing and all sorts of different technologies, all sorts of, different types of marketing technology and subsets of technology of the different, that massive MarTech chart. We've tried to bring a lot of that stuff in. We've tried to surface technologies and interesting things that if you're a marketer, you would be, hearing about and learning about and hearing from vendors as well, not just practitioners, to kind of give you an idea of those sort of things, because it's a huge part of the marketer's life. We have to evaluate and reevaluate and justify our spend on technology, our spend on vendors and agencies and stuff like that. And it's a big part of our job. So we wanted to do that as well, to have practitioner-led content and also what's new and happening. The one thing that I feel like we talked about tangentially, but we never really addressed in our questions very often, was actual marketing trends, right? Like the whole show was about broad sweeping trends in marketing and how these different people are thinking about it. But I feel like so often the running joke internally was we didn't ask a question in this episode about what trend are you excited for, although we sprinkled it in from time to time. And I hope that, our audience has found that really helpful. I tried to put myself in the audience's seat as much as I could in these interviews and ask questions, even when I did know the answer. Oh wait, no, that was very rare. But no, I mean, I learned obviously a ton from doing this show over the years. It's been amazing for me as a marketer to learn from all these people. And I just hope, I hope that our listeners feel the same way. I know, again, that we've got tons of feedback from folks that they find it really helpful, that the way that we've set up and asked questions, the way that our producers, craft and recraft and rewrite those questions is a big part of our success. The way that we prep our guests to make sure that they have stories and anecdotes and things like that to share with our listeners, that we can get some, I don't want to say dirt, but some of the things that are more tactical in the way that they approach their jobs or the way they approach specific campaigns. We always tried to push for that stuff. And so kind of last thank you, maybe not last thank you, but another thank you is just to our fans for the people who have been listening. I know it's like, no kidding, but I just really, really appreciate every single person who's listened to this show. It's just been, an honor to host this for 3 years. It's been, one of the best things I've done in my career. I'm so appreciative that people, take time out of their day to listen to marketing. I hope we've made you a little better at your jobs. I hope that we've brought you interesting things. I am always looking for more feedback. So if you have any feedback on anything about the show, at any point, you can always shoot me a note on LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. But I just am so appreciative and humbled to have been able to do this for so long. And I just thank, all of our listeners for sticking with us for this long. And there's lots more to go. And Jeremy will give his spin on the show and do things in his way, which will be really exciting.
Thanks to Ian for so many wonderful memories. And now we're happy to introduce you to our new host, Jeremy Bergeron. Everybody, this is producer Hillary Georgie. You've probably heard my voice before on the intros and in certain special episodes of Marketing Trends. But I'm here today to do a very special job, and that is to intro you to our new host, Jeremy Bergeron. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, Hillary. Super excited to be here. This is a show that is, there's certain aims that, I aim for. There's levels that I want to reach and hit in life. Marketing Trends is one of the most amazing shows on the internet. So the fact that I get to host it, I'm super excited. Thank you for having me.
Jeremy, I couldn't be more thrilled. And I really just want to give you a little bit of a platform to introduce yourself to our loyal Marketing Trends listeners. Tell us a little bit about you. What have you done before? What are you doing now? Why are you excited to talk to the top CMOs and marketers in the world?
I am super honored to host this show for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have seen and experienced really good marketing. I've also been through really bad marketing, and I know what it's like to be on the bad end of marketing. And so I personally think that really great marketing supports every aspect of the business. I've come from a world where, I spent a couple of years at Google. We were working with a bunch of small and medium-sized businesses all over the country and really looking at what are some of the marketing campaigns, both traditionally and digitally, that are going to allow these brands to really expand their reach, to increase their bottom line, and also be brands that would be around for a long time. And so I always pay attention to marketing. I always think about marketing in what's the point of this? Why are they doing this, right? And so we live in a world today, especially in the US, where there's so much marketing and the role of the CMO is changing rapidly. And so I want to be able to look at this industry with a broad stroke and find out what are some of these CMOs today in 2021 and beyond? What are they thinking about? What are they doing? What are the most important pieces of a successful marketing team or a campaign? When I can get inside the minds and hearts of today's marketing leaders, it's going to tell me a whole story about what they're doing, what they're not doing, and how other brands can learn from those companies and those CMOs.
I love that. I think that is exactly what we want to do on Marketing Trends. We want to get into the hearts and minds of these marketers who have, such an influence on everything that we see, everything that we buy. So this is a place to do that. And I think that the audience is going to get so much from these conversations. I mean, it's been 300 plus episodes already. We've talked to some amazing people. We're going to talk to even more amazing people in the next months, years, decades, forever. We'll be doing this until we're all machines. So, Jeremy, I want to know, and I want you to tell the listeners a couple of fun facts about you. What are they going to learn about you throughout this journey that they should know up front? What are you going to bring to the table?
Couple of fun facts about me. Well, I am a father. I'm extremely proud about being a dad. My dad game is getting stronger every day. I love being a father first, and then I love being an entrepreneur. I love thinking about businesses all the time. I'm the kind of person that can't turn it off, and I don't know why anyone would want to turn it off. I go to bed sleeping and thinking about good marketing and bad marketing, and I wake up thinking about, ooh, that's an interesting technology play, or why is that brand speaking that way? And so my brain just thinks about marketing and business and growing brands. It won't stop doing it. So you should know that about me. Love being a dad, love talking business, and love sitting toe to toe with some of the greatest marketing minds in the world and really seeking to understand how they got there. And more importantly, how are they going to stay there?
All right. So we have done a little bit of inside baseball for listeners. Jeremy's been getting his feet wet, doing a couple interviews. What's been so exciting for you so far in these first few that you've done?
Well, I host another show, and I'm super excited and honored to host another show. And that's given me some cool perspective when I'm connecting with the C-suite, around the country. And now getting a chance to host Marketing Trends and meeting with some marketing leaders and CMOs has been incredible. I've had a handful of conversations already. In fact, we just got off one today. And what I find, really interesting in some of these early conversations is the balance that these marketers have to play now. Like the future of marketing is changing. And the way that these CMOs have to think about connection and communication with their employees, right? The way they have to really consider empathy when it comes to being a CMO, especially in the world that we're playing in now. Some of these core traditional things are not going away, and how they're able to persevere during really unsettling times. And some of the CMOs that I've spoken to already are showing that, and how they're able to really take a step back and then give back and kind of reflect on how to handle things when it comes from marketing and technology and teams. And sometimes, I'm speaking to CMOs that are, in charge of vast teams and really thinking about how are they considering supporting their team first and supporting their customers first. I also find it interesting to consider some of the stories that marketers and marketing leaders are starting to focus on now, where they're really keying in on the customer story and how to tell that story in a way that resonates and do it across all the channels that may not have existed last week, last month, last year. The role has changed. Revenue and relationships have changed. And so the CMO really is the most valuable, versatile ally. And in these first couple conversations, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing these leaders really play ball in lots of different arenas. And to see them across all these channels is really beautiful.
Jeremy, I love that. I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited you're taking the reins of this show. I can't wait to see where it goes. I know you'll do an amazing job because, I produce your other show. So this is going to be great. And listeners, you're in for a treat, I promise. So stick with us. Next week, we'll have all new episodes featuring Jeremy as the new host of Marketing Trends. Jeremy, anything to leave the listeners with?
I'm excited. I said it again. I'm excited. And I want other chief marketing officers out there to think about what we're going to talk about on this show. And we're going to bring the things that are important to CMOs and marketing leaders and executives across the Fortune 500 and beyond. A successful marketing leader, especially in the world that we live in today, they have to be able to distill market trends. There's a lot of innovation in marketing. There's a lot of fluff, right? They have to understand what's the difference between an actual trend and actual force. And then also they have to know research and business data, and they have to know what product attributes they put into messaging and programming and how to tell stories and how to tell them well. So we're going to support marketing leaders by helping them connect with other leaders and also helping them connect with their customers. And that is something I'm super stoked about. And the fact that I get to do this multiple times a week and they pay me for this is incredible.
It's a great job. We're happy you're here. Fans, listeners, stay tuned. It's going to be a great ride. Thanks, Jeremy. And we'll see everybody next week.
See ya.